Hey everyone, and welcome to the third week of Projects and Practices here at First United Methodist Church of Baton Rouge. My name is Karen Miliotto, and I'm so excited to be journeying through Advent with all of you in this way. I'm so excited, in fact, that I wore my most excited sweater. I don't know if there's any sweater that could say the light of the world quite like a sweater that could actually light up the world if it came in contact with an open flame. So that's what I've got going on here today. The only problem is that it does have bells, so if you hear Santa Claus in the background of this video, it's not Santa, it's just me jingling all the way. Now, if you got a kit from the church, you would have received a nice little rosemary bush like this one. And if you're just getting supplies on your own, get whatever. I mean, anything that's just kind of like unruly. If you're a friend of mine, go to your local garden store and just picture something that kind of reminds you of my hair on a Tuesday. You know, like on Sunday, your hair is great, right? Because you're at church, you're bringing your best self. By Monday, you're still riding that Sunday day hair train. But by the time you get to Tuesday, it's just like no one's going to see you maybe, and you can just kind of sneak in and out of your day looking a little bit ridiculous. And so the idea here is to imagine form. You know, like our lives have a certain form to them. So as you're looking at your shrub or your bush or whatever it is that you got, take a look at it and see how it resembles your actual life right now. Is there anything that's gone a little haywire? You know, is there anything that's just out of place? Has something gotten longer than it maybe should have? So we started off all of our projects and practices workshops this Advent with the idea of vision. So the vision of Advent is to prepare room for Jesus. So what does that look like? What does it look like to prepare room within ourselves for Christ to be born within us? And so the first thing that we can do is just kind of take a look at our life and see if it has taken the form or taken the shape of a life that's hospitable to growth and character formation in Christ. So with this, I have a vision. I want it to be kind of cone-shaped. I'm picturing a Christmas tree. This is actually, pruning is a spiritual discipline that I have in my normal prayer arsenal, because for me, it's like a very, very helpful way for me to talk to God about my life, the form of my life, the shape that it's taking, and all of the different, growth that's happening and the things that are sprouting out of my existence, and to put it before God in a way where I can really hear about what needs to go and what needs to stay, where I should kind of trim and shape and where I should just let go. Another thing that's really cool to think about as you're doing this is these are small plants, but they're going to grow. So the form that you're giving them is training them so that when they are bigger, they're starting to really become that thing that you'd like them to be. This thing could grow to be like 4 feet if I let it, if I don't kill it first, which is entirely possible. Between me and Rosemary, we don't always get along. But I have this idea. And so I'm trimming it. And I want to invite you just to, as you're trimming it, think about the different strands of your life, the different areas of your life. You do want to have kind of like a firm base, and then shape it upwards to take that shape. Maybe at the bottom, you're thinking about the things that really give you stability. Maybe that's your church family. Maybe that's worship. It's your Bible study. So those are the things you really do want to let's branch out and grow, because they provide that structure of the plant and of you. So what are the things that you want to just leave be and let come out a little bit to support all of this upward other growth? But then there might be other things where you're like, look at this one, this is crazy. Do you have anything in your life that feels a little bit like this, where it's like, this got a little bit too long and it's taking me off kilter? So trim that. As we come into January and people start talking a lot about their New Year's resolutions, there's all sorts of ideas of what we should add to our lives. We should add exercise routines. We should add diets. We should add, I don't know, everyone has a different list. My list is usually I should add more organization to my closet or my desk or my desktop of my computer, which would freak most people completely out. But what are the things that you want to add is usually the question of a New Year's resolution. But in Christian character formation, there's a lot of taking away that has to happen. There's a lot of eliminating of haste and eliminating of rushing and making room for those things that are going to give you that deep structure, and then letting the other stuff kind of come in a way that's balanced and looks like something that can one day grow into the form that you're giving it today as a little plant. So once you've got your plant kind of trimmed into the shape that you want it, and you can do whatever kind of shape you want. It depends on what you've got. But ask God and pause the video in prayer and just say, what is the shape that I'd like it to take? Is it conical? Is it circular? Is it square? That would be very bold of you if you're new to pruning. Squares are kind of tricky, but I encourage you to do however the Spirit leads you. But once you have your little trimmings, you'll find in your bag a prayer card, and at the bottom of it, it invites you to name some things to trim. So at the bottom right here, so you can just cut this in half. So it says name some things to trim. This is going to look different for each and every one of us. Maybe it's an activity that we signed on for that is just taking too much time. Maybe it's worry. Maybe it's something that we're kind of overindulging in. Like, it could be honestly anything. It could be spending. I don't know. It could be Netflix. It's up to you. It's all, we're all so different in that area. But just take some time, pray about it. Feel free to leave it out even as you kind of see your plant unfold. Think of it like a bonsai tree activity. Bonsai trees are actually great for this too. But whatever they are, just leave it out, think about it. And one of my favorite parts of this practice, and it's really cool to see when you're trimming a really big tree, is to let these die, because that is part of it, is you're cutting these things off to give this tree a chance to take the shape that God intends for it to. And in the natural world, they're going to die, and then they're going to feed the soil beneath the plant. That's the beauty of it, is that as these things are cut and left at the ground, they end up nourishing the roots of these plants, which is just such a cool thing to think about. So in your kit, you'll also find an envelope, and I just want to encourage you to consider taking your trimming, putting it in the envelope, and then just as you come back to it over the months or weeks or whatever, take a look at it, and you can kind of ask God and ask yourself if you really have trimmed this. And once you get to a point where you search yourself and you're like, yeah, I really did let that go, take it out and just maybe dust it around the base of this little plant, or take it outside and give it back to the soil or something. Let it be a moment where you recognize that you really have eliminated one of these things that was becoming unhealthy or unhelpful or malforming in your life, to just kind of actually come away from you and go into something else some other way. So envelope, prayer card, and leave this out if it helps you to just add to it as the season unfolds. Maybe it can be a helpful thing to accompany you as you do think about New Year's resolutions. At the other side of this sheet was also these little circles. So now we're going to take a minute to trim out the circles. And as I told you guys in previous weeks, my trimming is, not top notch. I'm a low level scissor art human. And as you're trimming these out, you can just kind of reflect a little bit on the different words that are listed on these cards. Goodness, patience, self-control, kindness, joy, love, peace. These are the fruits of the Spirit. So when we're talking in Advent about preparing room for Jesus' birth, preparing room for the incarnation and for Christ to be born within us, we can reflect on the fruits of the Spirit and realize the attributes of the one we're making room for, and think about how we can give our lives a shape that is hospitable to those different characteristics of Jesus, and that might also help to inform the process of trimming. What are the things that make me grow in goodness? What are the things that increase my patience? And then also, what are the things that deplete those things, So once you have all of your little circles cut out, you can take the string that was in the envelope and these little tiny clippy things and really think about setting the intention of giving your life a form and a shape that will hold up growth in these areas, Don't ever lose kindness. Kindness tried to take off. No, kindness, come back. So, kindness. Trim you on here. Goodness. Not going in order here according to the Apostle Paul, but I think Jesus is okay with that. And there are some of these, like as we go through the seasons of our lives, there are some times where one or two of these, comes easier than some of the other ones. But it's helpful to know what it is that we're making room for in our lives, who it is, and who is the one that we are creating space for, so that when we notice it in ourselves, we can encourage it, When we see in ourselves an increase in one of these things and associate it with whatever we were doing at the time and realize, oh, that's something that increased my kindness or my goodness or my self-control. And then when we notice the things that are opposite of that, we can be like, oh, it's time for a trim, But I hope you enjoyed this project. I encourage you to just leave it out and let it guide you as you go into this season of inviting Jesus into the world and celebrating who he is and who he came to show us how we can be. And let it help you as you do set resolutions, if that's something that you do, because these are lofty goals, but they're ones that are definitely within our reach as the people of Christ. And so that is what we are celebrating right now, is the person who came to the world to make it so that we could be kind and good and patient and full of peace and love. So Merry Christmas, almost. Light up the world. Don't light up your sweaters. And have a great week as you continue to prepare room for Jesus on December 25th. I'll see you next week.